Hi, and welcome to the lesson. So in this lesson, I'd like to give you a brief tour of the tool that you and I are going to use during this course. So you want to make sure that you could take this course and do all the exercises without needing to install anything on the computer you were using. Maybe you're using a computer from work that won't let you install something, you're using a friend's computer. Whatever the circumstance, there'll be no need for you to install anything on your computer in this course. That also means this course will work with any type of computer, Macintosh, Linux, Windows, because all you're going to need to do is to use a web browser. Any modern web browser will work fine, and the website we're going to use is right here at the URL listed, www.db-fiddle.com. What a funny name, right? DB-Fiddle. Well, DB stands for database, but what is fiddle? Well, fiddle means a code file, and in this instance, we're talking about a SQL code file. So if I say, let's bring up this fiddle, we're bringing up a SQL code file. And this tool is really nice because it's got two windows for our SQL. Schema SQL on the left, you can see here, and Query SQL on the right. And we'll go over both of those, and you'll see how they're different. And one really nice thing about this tool is that it has the different types separated, and you can scroll separately on each side. This will be really useful as the course moves forward. Before getting into these two windows here though, let's take a look at the database menu. The great thing about using a tool like this is we write all the code in the browser and it runs in a database in the cloud that's hosted by this website. And if we look at this database drop-down menu here, you'll see we've got the three main open source databases available to us. We have MySQL version 8, and previous, PostgreSQL, which is the one we're going to be using. We talked about that in our first video, and they've just put version 13 beta on here, so we're going to use that. Probably by the time you take this course, it'll be out of beta, so it'll be version 13. And then SQLite, which is version 3.3, the most recent version. So we'll go to PostgreSQL. We'll always leave it on 13 beta. And then let's talk a little bit more about the rest of the tool. So you might notice my screen looks a little bit differently than yours does. You probably have a sign in button up here in the upper right, and that's referring to an option to have a pro plan, which costs $7 a month. You don't need it for this course. I'll show you why in a minute, but I do recommend you check it out. It's nice to support the nice folks that host these databases and created this tool. They're also really responsive on Twitter, so you've got their Twitter link here where you can tweet at them if you have any questions or concerns. I recently found a small bug and they had it fixed within a day. But since I'm signed in and do have a pro account, I have this menu in the bottom left. So it has some nice features that you get with the $7 a month. One of them is the starred fiddles. And remember, fiddles are your SQL code files. So here I've got 5 SQL code files all saved in kind of a, you can think of it like a bookmark menu. I can click on these and bring up that SQL code file and work with it. But like I said, it's completely fine if you don't want to pay for the $7 a month paid account. And that's because you can always save your code with the URL. Let me show you what I mean. I'll change this back to PostgreSQL. Paste in an example code here. Don't worry too much about this code. We'll go over it in the next lesson. But this is some schema SQL code that creates a table and inserts some data. So once I do that, I can save the code right here. And if you have the free account, you won't have the star feature here, but you will have update, and you'll also notice that the URL will look like this. You'll have a different unique string of numbers and letters identifying your fiddle, and then a slash, and then a 0. The last number is the version number, and so 0 being the first version. So this URL is specific to this fiddle, and if you want to save this fiddle and get back to it, you just have to save the URL. You can save it as a bookmark, copy and paste it into a text editor, doesn't matter. Let me show you one quick thing that was a little confusing to me when I first started using this tool. If you make a change to the query here, or the schema SQL, let's say I change, this is Beth's age, it's 45 now, let's say I change it to 44. This will just be for this example. And then I run that code. Okay, I got no results, which is correct because this is just creating and inserting data. There are no results because there's no query SQL, but it ran successfully. This didn't actually save the change to the code to this URL. It's still the original URL that I got when I clicked save on the code that I had before. You can see that because if I hit refresh here, it'll change your age back to 45. Once it comes up, there we go, it's back to 45. So if you do make a change, for instance, let's change it back. Before you run it, I would recommend go ahead and click update. What that does is creates a new URL, and the only difference is going to be the version number at the end. It's going to increment by 1, like you see it just went to 1. And that does have this new version of the code with her age being 44. If you're using the starred feature, make sure to restar it so you have a star with the new version. You can certainly keep both versions starred if you want, because the star applies to a specific version, or you can unstar the older one if you don't need to keep it anymore. Okay, that's enough for this lesson. Give you a little tour of the tool. I recommend you go ahead and go to DB-Fiddle, db-fiddle.com, and check it out. We'll see you in the next lesson.